Yo, what up, people?
Yo, yo.
Another episode of the RX Show. Special guest, surprise guest, Refraktal.
Yeah.
What up, what up, what up, what up?
What up? Thanks for having me, RX. It's
Yo.
always a pleasure.
Always good to have you, Mr. ES.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
ES is his name. So, a lot of people don't know, I'm half of this project. Mr. ES the other half of this project. Instrumental, weird electronic shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, some shit we was trying to get good at the, electronic stuff, you know what I mean? Because for the hip-hop stuff, I was doing a lot of samples, and, you know, sampling is illegal in a lot of ways, and I didn't want to have to go through the hoops of fucking getting mechanical licenses and all that, so I wanted to get good at making music, getting good at making fucking, you know, like, aside from beats, like, getting good at learning, like, sound waves and frequencies and shit. So this is the result of our little project here and shit, man. Aside from the hip-hop stuff, we be doing this. So, you know, peep the video right here. Matter of fact, me and the homeboy made that shit on Ableton.
Yeah, the whole thing. The entire song, video.
The video, shit. Like, feeding sound into Ableton, and then Ableton spinning back visuals and shit. So it's actually like kind of cymatic in a way, you know what I mean? Like how we were talking about in the earlier episodes with like sound waves and shit.
Oh yeah, man.
So that's that song right there and shit. So let's get into a little bit of a history and shit, man. So where you from, man? Where'd you grow up or what?
Well, I grew up in El Paso, but most people don't know. I was actually born in France.
France.
My dad was in the Air Force, and
Right.
we're first stationed out over there.
Out in France. So you French?
No, man, I'm actually just born and raised El Paso. I'm probably the whitest looking Mexican you'll ever know. Actually, for years, I thought I was adopted until my sister came out. She looked just like me. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not adopted.
This fool said he's from France. Hey,
That's
man.
more believable, right?
Hey, you look French. Fabio. You got that Fabio hair. Show him the ponytail.
Oh. The Fabio hair let it all out.
The Fabio hair, bro. The Fabio hair, man. I'm gonna have a little bit of background right here. Shout out to the listeners. Oh, we got some Allison Gray samples in here for all the fans. You know what I mean? Fucking anybody who knows Alex Gray, you know, the painter and shit. Allison Gray is his wife, and she paints as well. She does some cool ass shit right here. You know what I mean? Peep the video, Refraktal hologram. We got the fucking YouTube and shit posted in the links. So check it out. Check it out. So this video, I guess, I want to go back and rewind a little bit. A lot of you can kind of see a little bit of similarities right here to the RX intro. Look at that. So actually, I took a snippet of this video and I took it for the RX intro just to kind of like, you know what I mean? Rehash some shit, you know, sample. Like in a way, like that's like being true to the hip hop shit. Like I was wanting to sample, so we sampled the fucking. I sampled.
You sampled
the
yourself. Yeah.
I sampled the visuals of a video I made earlier and put into some other shit, and so that was cool. Like,
So are you making mechanical royalties off yourself?
actually, yes, yeah. Like my clone and shit. There's a clone of me out there. I don't know which one's the evil one yet. I think he is, but you know, every now and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, fuck, what if it's me? Am I the evil twin? Shit. And so it's like, you know, it's that battle you all do. If you did have a clone, would you know, which one of y'all would be the evil one? You know, like if you had a clone, you think you'd be the evil one? You think he'd be better than you? Would you get mad that he'd be better than you?
Nah, I think my clone would die like the same day that one goat did.
The goat?
Yeah, you remember what was her name?
They cloned a goat, that's right.
Yeah, and then
They actually did fucking clone some shit, man. That's like real shit, right?
well, man, there's a lot of, conspiracy theories, you know. You have to think that in some twisted way, those those theories are based on the truth in some way. You know, the human imagination isn't that vast to create something from nothing. You know, it's always got to have some basis.
Some
I
validity.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tripped out, man. Fucking yeah, like they do the you know how they do like that whole shit where they put stuff in movies just to soften up the people. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. The government, fucking conspiracies.
What's the craziest thing you've seen so far in the movies?
Craziest thing in the movie.
Revealing theories or whatever.
I don't know, like this whole shit about like, have you seen this movie that's coming up about like all these little kids that have to take this test and like whoever doesn't pass the test, they kill them? Have you guys seen that shit coming up? It's like, it's a new
No.
movie. It's like there's this trailer coming out of this fucking movie, and it's like, you know, like these kids have to take these tests or whatever, and like the parents are all coaching them like, all right, like learn your ABCs and fucking like, you know, here, you make sure you know all the fucking capitals of every city and shit, and then if you don't pass this test, they kill you. Like there's a movie coming out of that shit. Like there's a
Man.
lot of like weird depopulation and shit out in there, fucking like in the movie world, which is like kind of like hearkening to something weirder on some Agenda 21 shit. If y'all didn't know about that shit, you know what I mean? But let's check out this website right here. This is our website right here. Refraktal. This is the other website that we be hosting and shit. Got musics, got videos. We got all kinds of different fucking you know, different like pictures of our equipment and stuff like that. If you want to check it out, got a fucking we actually have a secret track up on here that I don't think a lot of people have heard. Well, I'll just fucking throw it, like, you know, I'll just throw it on in the background real quick, kind of lightly and shit, so people can check it out in case they never heard it. But yeah, check out the website right here, refraktal.com, if y'all ain't heard it. Yeah.
Don't crash.
Oh, it ain't gonna crash. Don't worry.
It's not working.
It's not playing it.
I
Well,
think
I'll
there's
be
even
banned.
2 secret tracks, but you got to hit the website for those guys. Come on, give us
Yeah.
some hits.
Right. No, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's show the other secret track. There's a secret track up on the video that's not on any of the like albums or whatever. We released an EP. We released a another like full LP, I guess if you want to call it that. But on the EP, we did kind of like an intro that wasn't on the CD. So if you bought it or whatever, it's not on the CD. This is the intro actually for the EP, but we just didn't put it on the CD because we wanted to leave like a little bit of like a, what do you call it? Like a fucking breadcrumb nugget, you know, for people to go out and check out, you know. So this is our other video right here, some fucking like tripped out psychedelic shit, you know what I'm saying? Because that's the other side of the RX that y'all ain't seen and shit. So just wanted to let y'all know, me and this cat right here who also does a lot of engineering. So if anybody needs mastering work, if anybody needs like mixing, helping mixes and that shit, like this dude will do work some magic for y'all. So you know, hit him up and shit.
Hell yeah.
Matter of fact, we was recently working on some hip hop shit, right? And you showed me this trick or whatever, like the saturation trick, man. That
Yeah.
shit's fucking dope, man. Like,
Ironically, it's kind of inspired by some of the other tricks that we learned together in the production, you know, just the taking advantage of what Ableton offers versus of the other DAWs, you know, the parallel processing, the
How'd
effect
you-
rack chains.
yeah,
things
like how
that.
did you
It's
do
really-
it? Like in Ableton, you did like an effect rack, and then you added like a multi-band compressor.
Well, I mean, it's
And then
kind
you
of based
banded
on
it
what I
out.
would see other mastering engineers do. You know, they would go in, when they get the 2-track or whatever, just the main mix, they would duplicate it and then just isolate certain frequencies. And you know, you can't take away a frequency that doesn't exist. You know, so the whole
Yeah.
methodology is kind of creating frequencies that weren't present before. So. Of
So
course.
like I saw you split it off into like EQs and shit. Like you got like, cause I had a horn sample, like some trumpets, some saxes and shit that like it was just too saturated. It was just too muddy, and so we split it out into 3 different bands. And in Ableton, it's cool because you can use an effect rack to do that. You don't have to create different tracks and shit. So I remember you did like an effect rack inside of Ableton, right?
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
like,
And then
one
just did
was
parallel
your-
chains.
Your chains of
Yeah.
which would be like in other programs you'd have to bus it, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
it would
Ableton's
take-
cool because you get that effect rack.
Yeah, just
So-
in one track, you know, you have all of the processing. You can save that rack if you want to do that again. So, I mean,
That's sick.
yeah, it's got its benefits for sure, and it's not always the right tool to use, but you know,
Yeah.
you know how it is. Music is half
No,
an
Ableton's-
experimentation and half a science.
Right? Ableton's awesome though, man. I've been getting a lot of people into that shit because a lot of the producers, a lot of people use FL Studio and shit, you know, and I still stand up for, you know, that shit's awesome. You know, everybody says FL Studio's just Fruity Loops, it's fucking whack. No, it's actually pretty dope. You do some pretty dope shit on it. But Ableton is actually pretty cool too, man. I fuck with them all, you know. I still want to do my vocals in Ableton. I would do other software and shit. But if you go on our website here, you can check out our like tutorials and shit. We do not like tutorials. Like I don't want to call it that because like we're not really teaching shit. We're just like behind the scenes, like how it says right here. Like you can check out some tips like of what we're doing. Also, like on the RX YouTube, if you go to the RX YouTube, I'm kind of starting a similar project, but for some hip hop stuff. So like, if you want to learn some crazy ass, like right here, I got this IDM glitch sounds, like how to make IDM glitch sounds real quick, or how to do like automatic drum sequencing right here, like make a drum sequence like instantly. You just load samples and then like it'll create it for you type shit. Like, so if you want to check out like how to do some of that stuff, and then also we did this like pocket operator ones.
Yeah,
Like,
that one was cool.
yeah, this dude went out and bought all the pocket operators and shit. I don't know if you guys have seen these. These are kind of cool. Watch, so check it out. I'll play this shit real quick. Let's like full screen this. Got these little pocket operators or whatever.
Little toy calculators.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so you got all three of them. You got like the drums and you got like the fucking like the bass and you got all that shit. And then here I am in the background yapping. Yeah, so we had that shit, man. We getting some good shit. We getting some good hits on that one or whatever. Like fucking.
Yeah, no, Refraktal did really, really well, I think. I mean, it kind of exceeded my expectations for, you know, not that I
Shit.
didn't think we would, you know, do good stuff. It's just.
Well,
you
this
know.
type of music isn't that big in America per se. Like the type of shit, like this is like it's not even EDM. Like it's electronic music, it is, but it's not like
Yeah,
dance shit. Like
That's
I
all you
didn't
could
make
call
this,
it is electronic, yeah.
You know, we didn't make this fucking shit for you to dance to. You know what I mean? Like, but it's electronic music nonetheless. Like it's a bunch of fucking sine waves, square waves, like saw waves and shit. But it's like psychedelic. Like we wanted to go for this like fractal concept. You
Definitely.
know, like I don't know if y'all are familiar with fractals and shit. Like if you're not familiar with fractals, definitely check it out on like the YouTube shit. Just type in fractals and it's like let's check it out right here. Watch, we'll pull it up. Tell them what fractals are, Gabe. I mean, Mr. Yes.
Well, we normally know the fractal as those repeating geometric patterns. You know, you zoom in, you zoom out, and there's nothing but the same iteration, the same pattern. But you know, it's a little more metaphorical on what reality really is to us. You know, like we were talking, the whole conception of refractal is kind of a pun on fractals because, you know, the fractal itself is infinite. And then here we're reiterating the infinite.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just
It's
a little dumb
re-infinity,
pun.
like re-infinity.
Yeah,
basically.
the name itself was just kind of
Refractal,
stupid.
it kind of implies. Well, but like a fractal, like I don't know if y'all have ever seen this shape right here. This is called the Mandelbrot set or whatever. And like this guy named Mandelbrot in the 80s or whatever used to work at IBM. And he discovered this shape. Like he put in some math equation, some crazy supersets that like some math genius that used to work with Einstein had written down. He put like the guy whose name was like Julia, his last name, so they call him Julia sets or whatever. He put in these Julia set equations into an IBM computer in like the 80s because they were trying to test the limits of computers back then. And it spit out this fucking crazy imagery and this shape, you know, they call it the Mandelbrot shape based on this guy that discovered it basically. And you can check out a documentary. It's called The Color of Infinity. And it's about fractals, about that dude. But anyways, the concept is that like when you zoom in, you keep zooming in and you keep seeing like the same thing over and 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 over. It's like infinite, you know what I mean? And there's different points where it's just blank. It's different points where there's like crazy, you know, like infinite details. But you always end up running back into this like Mandelbrot shape. Like the more you zoom in, like there it is again. You see? There it is again. The Mandelbrot shape, and so that you keep zooming in, you keep zooming in, you keep zooming in, and then it repeats itself, and it repeats itself. And so we were talking about like on an atomic scale, on a micro macro scale, like if you were to look into like a microscope and keep zooming in as much as you could, how small could you go? You know what I mean? Then you got like all these scientists doing this fucking like CERN experiment, smashing particles together, seeing how small, shit can go.
It's going to go on forever. That's what
Yeah,
they're
like
finding. They just keep on finding the same patterns. Everything.
it's like, well, how small could you go? And eventually, like, if you were to zoom in enough, you would, according to what the computers are saying or whatever, this fucking fractal shit, you would run into the same thing again. It would repeat itself somehow. You know what I mean? Like on some Super Mario shit, like you're running across the screen and you come back on the other side. You know what I mean?
That shit is trippy like that.
So like, but yeah, see, like these are fractals basically, and it's just math. This is all math shit. Everybody, it's psychedelic as shit, but this is like the highest form
God
of
math. Yeah, they call
This
it
is
God
like
math.
the highest fucking form of math, like beyond fucking sacred geometry, beyond fucking like, all these crazy, supersets. This, and then we'll get into another shit, vortex math too. But like, nah, like fractals, it's crazy because like it's like the universe is trying to say something. Like this psychedelic shit is the highest form of math. Like there's something that it's trying to tell us. Like I don't know. I just feel like because when you go on psychedelic trips, stuff like that, like so you close your eyes and you see kind of like stuff like this, some imagery like this. You get those motions like this, like the fractal, nature.
Reiterating. Yeah, for sure. No, and I don't know, man. It's there's so many like scriptures in all like religion and everything that when you kind of read between the lines, they're kind of saying that everything, the infinity is like God is ever present, or kind of things like that. Kind of statement is just showing how the essence of creation is within everything. If you zoom into everything, you can kind of find the same knowledge that you would see zooming out all the planets, and
Yeah.
it's always pointing into the same direction. And
Well,
I
that's
think
the
that's
other
what the
thing.
big metaphor is. It's you're gonna look for if you look deeper, zoom in forever, you're just gonna arrive at the same thing. You're gonna miss
Exactly.
out on the big picture.
But like the thing is like similarly, like if you zoom out, like now, we had like the metaphor of the microscope, or like if you zoom in on a microscope deep enough, like maybe eventually you'll see yourself zooming into the microscope because it just like it's zooming. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
here you
yeah,
are zooming into the microscope, and then eventually you go so zoomed in, you just see yourself again. You know what I mean? Like it's an infinite kind of like loop on a micro scale, but also on a macro scale. If you like get a telescope and you keep like looking outward and outward and outward, like maybe you see, Earth again, and
yeah.
like
Well, I mean, going back to that vortex math, I guess that's a good way to go into that. That would make sense with your like toroidal universe kind of idea.
yeah,
Everything kind of loops around into itself.
yeah, it's this giant
We
mosaic. It's like a
imagine.
3D mosaic shifting places, but like the way I see it, because like some of the old philosophers used to say that space travel is time travel.
Well,
That
it's Einstein proved it's space time travel. Like that's another thing. Everyone thinks about traveling in time. I mean, you can do that super easy. If you have a time function, it's a set numbers and values. It's not
yeah,
like when people think of time travel, I think they either talk about that. They were talking about this earlier about the multiverse. Going into another dimension where the consequences of those actions don't apply,
yeah.
or undoing actions within one reality timeline. And
Well, yeah, like how like Back to the Future, like great example, like time travel where you go back and you change stuff, or you go to the future and it's not the same as what timeline you were in, that kind of stuff, like possibilities and
yeah, yeah.
you know,
So I guess they would go, in the Back to the Future, it's a multiverse. I guess
yeah.
he's able to go back to where those things didn't happen yet.
But
But
see, like that gets really messy really
yeah, it
quick,
really does.
really quick.
Cause I don't know, it
I
doesn't make.
think I think the universe is a little bit it seems very complicated, but I think I mean, it is complicated. The universe is fucking complicated. I'm not gonna go say that
Yeah,
it's
it's going to be
simple, but
unfathomable.
but
Yeah.
if you think of this just really quick, like, I had this thought one time, on a deep ass trip that you know, like in that movie Planet of the Apes, like when you travel through space, and you're seemingly going to another galaxy, right? But in that movie, they thought they were going to another galaxy, and it was really just the same galaxy in a different time.
Yeah.
You know, so like they left 2010 or whatever the fuck, and then they arrived in what they thought was like the neighboring galaxy. Like they left the Milky Way and they thought it was the Andromeda galaxy, but it's like it's actually just the Milky Way again in a different time. Now it was like 3,000 years, or God knows how many fucking years in the future now. That was the concept of like Planet of the Apes, where like
Yeah, see, that's
space
kind of
travel
cool.
is time travel.
Exactly, like
You
you
know,
go in a certain speed, like you don't um, go outside of the consequences of your reality. You can't undo your actions. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
You time travel all the time. You can go
that's
back into
true.
your memories. That's time travel. Is seeing what happened in a certain time function. But when people think of time travel, they're either talking about multiverse or undoing their actions,
Yeah, but
which
you
is
can't undo. Yeah,
impossible.
like in the movie
Yeah,
The Time Machine, like you can't undo. Like you can never go backwards. Like
exactly.
even if you go back in time, you're folding through time. You're not,
Right. You're only
you
going to
know,
go further into the future. You're going to
like
miss your
you get
chance.
older.
Ex-
You're still 33, even though you're back in time. Like your timeline is still progressing forward,
yeah, that's in
type
complete
shit. But
accordance with like Einsteinian,
But this is
time travel.
this
Like,
is what I'm saying. Like, is it possible that it's all just one centralized galaxy, and as we look out at the other galaxies, it's the same galaxy in different times? And so, like you see, like you look out over here, and then it's the same galaxy, but like in Planet of the Apes, like this
yeah.
galaxy, this bubble of stars or whatever the fuck is, the world in 2 billion years ago, and then this bundle over here is the world, and it's all composed of every moment in time. And so like I have this saying that every moment in time makes up every moment in time. So like
Yeah.
over here you have this galaxy is this second, this galaxy is that second, this galaxy, it looks
Part of
like
the
another
frozen picture of
galaxy,
time, I
but
guess.
it's just like just like in it's the same galaxy in a different time, and you think
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
traveling to another space, but you're traveling to the same space in a different time. And so similarly, like on the micro scale, like if you look at atoms, like how we're talking of bubbles of galaxies, like bubbles of galaxies, and it's this point in time and this point in time. So like if you break it down on the micro scale, like atomically, like what if it was that these fucking atoms are like these galaxies, and it's that bundle again, and that's the fractals. That like over here you have this giant galaxy, but then on the micro scale it's like the atom or the Higgs boson or whatever the fuck it is
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? But really, once you break it down further and far enough, you start to see that it's the same thing again. That it's like you zoom in enough, it becomes itself again. Like like you're looking at the microscope so deep that eventually you see yourself looking into the microscope. Like, and I don't know, call it fucking crazy theories and shit, but like we can't. No, I ain't seen no fucking spaceship go farther than fucking the moon. So I mean, and even that's debatable. So like,
Yeah, no, and then everything that quantum physics is saying is, in super accordance to what like the Vedic teachings of ancient times were saying. Duality, the duality, uh, the dualistic nature of life. There's a proton and an electron. Just in that, like reality, the fundamental. Every way we can break it upon there, it has that duality that they talk about in the Vedas and all of that. And that's like the oldest books that we know of.
yeah.
And they're talking about, you know, things that we're barely coming to understand now. And, I think we're probably in the most ignorant age of our time. People don't know how to.
Well,
The implication
we're in
is
the
that
most,
everything is.
and I think you picked the correct word there. It's not the stupidest age; it's the most ignorant age, because ignorant implies ignoring
We have
knowledge.
all the information at our
Stupid means that
disposal. I mean,
like hey, like he just doesn't get it,
he
But
doesn't have the
like,
capability
but
of processing
ignorant
this.
means
Yeah,
they got the capability and they ignore it.
they refuse. Oh
So
no, and
like, yeah,
that's.
you picked the right word there. Like the society nowadays chooses to ignore this type of shit. But
Well, just
if
think
you really
about it.
break it down, yeah, like that's where it really starts to kind of make sense. Like, and um, you know, we started to talk about this vortex math a little bit, which I'm gonna bring up here. But yeah, let me fucking bring that video up so we can kind of tie that in. We just recently stumbled upon this, and I guess yeah, I'm starting to kind of like figure it out and see how it works. But like there's this guy or whatever that's saying that he's discovered the secret to free energy, and it's using this fractal force. Believe it or not, it's like recycling this fractal force through a vortex, and then basically what they do is like they run a battery through. Well, I think
It's
I
a
think it's in
coil
the video.
inductor. Yeah, it's just a
Let me see.
coil of.
I'll just fucking play the video. Watch. Damn it, ads. Fucking YouTube. But let's see. Nikola Tesla had this idea of the nines and stuff, this shape or whatever. This guy breaks it down of how vortex math works. But essentially, he made this device or whatever. I'm trying to find where the clip was. He made this device where they had like an LED light, and the light was only so bright or whatever. Like it only a certain amount of them lighted. So they had like this LED light, and it had like 100 bulbs, right? And they powered it on with like this little like battery or whatever, like a Duracell fucking AA, right? And they ran a wire through the little battery, and that little battery lit up like 4 or 5 lights, right? But then this dude he made this fucking coil, like this toroidal coil. I think it's called a Rodin coil. Let me look this. Let's put it up right here. The Rodin coil. He made this fucking Rodin coil right here, and you run the you get the battery, and then you run the wire through the center of the Rodin coil, and then all of a sudden the LEDs now, like where there was 3 lit before, there's like fucking 20 now.
Ableton? Are you kidding me?
Oh, he's using up lights. I think, is it this one? I don't know. Yeah,
That's insane. That's
but it's a coil made out of like different magnetic metals that interact with magnetic fields, and the center of it kind of like
what's the
propels
windings?
this force somehow.
The nature of the windings generates this interesting magnetic field.
Like that's fucking free energy right there, yo. Like straight up, like and it's not. Well, it's not free energy. I guess that's a miss.
They call it 0 point energy.
0 point, yeah, because it's not like you're getting energy from nothing, but you're enhancing energy. Like you have to already have the battery there.
Well, yeah, you're harnessing energy.
But then you run the wire into the center of this little thing, this Rodin coil, and then it enhances the energy of the battery without plugging anything in, without doing anything. So essentially what they're saying is if we can start making these fucking Rodin coils on a massive scale, start running fucking our electricity wires through them in general, and our street wires, then we could generate energy for fucking years. Like we there's no need to pay electric companies. There's no need to fucking do all this stuff. Literally. And they know this stuff, you know what I mean? We're all getting fucked over here. Paying our bills and shit. Like, they know that. Like, literally, all they would have to do is make a big ass generator or whatever, run it through a Rodin coil, and it would power a fucking city for years. You know what I mean? Nobody have to pay shit. Like, it's cheap.
All the technology, that's been suppressed, especially in the electronics. That's earth shattering.
Right.
For years, there's a lot of people saying, that. Green energy is unsustainable. Only small countries can use green energy because it requires so much, surface area, things like that. And then now you're seeing India, is going full green, and for years, they're calling it an impossibility to sustain off of everything that we have on the world, and it's a complete lie. Tesla knew all of these things. I mean, that modal 9 mathematics,
Tesla figured it out,
was...
Look at this, Tesla function. They based this whole math off of Tesla's fucking discovery.
Yeah, like modal mathematics existed for a while, but, he was real big on the 9 because it creates that interesting pattern there. And
the 3, 6, and the 9.
Yeah,
well, see, there's this guy Randy Powell. I highly suggest if anybody's interested, anybody that's watching or whatever, check this dude Randy Powell out. He's the guy that's like really propelling this shit right now. He discovered this this amazing fucking crazy little nugget of knowledge inside of numbers. When you look at the 1 through 9, and he draws this shape, looks like the fucking Power Rangers shape. You remember the Power Rangers suit and shit? They used to have this shape.
Is the Power Rangers
remember?
suit.
No, it was the Power Rangers suit. They had that shit
with
in
the
diamond.
Middle,
with the diamond. Remember that shit?
Uh-huh.
Like, so, they were probably onto some shit. But check this out. Like, this shape right here in particular. Like, I'm not going to play the video because it's crazy. And, I don't want to necessarily fucking impede on the man's views and shit. Like, I don't want to get copyright issues. But check this video out right here. The intro to Vortex Math. It's very simple. It's not like fucking crazy math. He just explains the shape and why it's drawn that way. And then when you start to understand why it's drawn this way, it's like, holy shit. Numbers just work like that. Like it's almost like proof of intelligent design. You know what they're saying?
Definitely.
Like you can kind of see a little bit of like God in this shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, man, like the numbers 1 through 9 are so perfect they're so perfect. Like all the mathematical functions and all this stuff like that fit into this math is so perfect. It's like, damn, yo, like that's God's signature. It's
Totally.
math.
And you know what the
The
funniest
numbers
thing
1 through
too?
9, that's God's name right there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely. The craziest thing too is the concept of zero didn't exist for. I mean, it's. I don't know the exact date, but it's a very, very new concept. For years, 1 through 9 ruled everything. You know what I mean? The
and then they
concept
added a
of
zero.
zero was unnecessary. It was. Um, there was just no need for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely something to it. You guys definitely check it out.
Well, like
It's kind of
a simple nugget of knowledge. Like I remember they used to teach us in fucking grade school, yo. Like you remember the nines when you do
the
like
multiplication
nine,
tables.
like what is it, like 9 times 1 is
Yeah.
9, right? So you have 9 fingers up, right? Or you have 9 fingers up and I have 1 thumb down, so that's 9 times 1 is 9. And then there's like, what is it, like 9 times 2 is 18, and so you have 8 fingers up, and then you have like, you remember that fucking shit?
Yeah.
Like that shit just works. You know what I mean? And we just happen to have 10 fingers, and it, like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't pick my body. I didn't ask for 10 fingers. It just happens to work with the math that was there already. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, the body perceiving reality as fake as it is can only come to realizations about reality. It may be limited realizations, but you're still measuring reality. You
Yeah.
know, um, we're all just observing nature through our limited perceptions, but you got to trust those perceptions. You're not
Yeah.
you're not looking at this, um, you know, this microphone here and
You gotta trust those
question.
perceptions.
Yeah, you do. But
No,
at the
straight
same
up.
time, everyone has a different perception. So
Yeah. Well, relativity's a bitch, huh?
I mean, it just tells
Relativity's
you
a
that
bitch.
we don't know ultimate reality, but we
Wow.
we get something.
We know ultimate relativity. We don't know absolute relativity. I don't know. Yeah, there's a whole big debate when I fucking was taking philosophy classes and shit. I used to do philosophy classes in college and shit. There's this whole debate about relativity and how it like disproves itself or some bullshit. But then you really start to sit back and think about it, and it's like, well, everything is kind of relative to what's going on in perception.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean,
Like,
that's undeniable.
and I guess it collapses itself, but at the same time, by collapsing itself, it confirms itself, because that's just how the universe works. It's just all fucked up like that. Like, you can't have up without down. What's up? Not down. What's down? Not up.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
it's
no,
like, that's
and
how the universe defines itself.
that's
Like,
why
it's a binary thing. Like,
I get that's why the Buddhists use empty, because it's kind of like up and down at the end of it. It cancels itself, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, I'm looking at just energy or whatever. That's what Tesla's final realization was. If you want to know the ultimate secret of the universe,
yeah.
think of waves, vibrations, and
Yep.
I forget the quote. I forget the
Oh,
direct
yeah.
quote, but that's, I mean, the Vedas, like you can interpret the Bible to basically to say the same thing, like
Yeah.
ultimately, I mean,
Frequencies.
it is
and
just
shit.
just particles that are set in motion, and then we kind of fix them in frame, and that's what we call reality. But we're
Well-
always gonna be forced to see it in one light or the other. But it's always free.
Speaking of free, here's our album for free. Check it out. That's up here. I'm gonna just kind of play some in the background while we play this, just to give a little bit of taste and shit. You know what I'm saying? There's some crazy ass fucking psychedelic shit for them. Psychonauts, man. You know what
Hell
I'm saying?
yeah.
But that's crazy. Like I've heard of the concept of Buddhist emptiness. And I had a very tough time understanding that word growing up, because it's like, emptiness has such a negative connotation in this culture. Like, emptiness implies like, oh, I'm empty inside, I don't have anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But then I started researching it more, looking at certain people. There's the Geshe Michael Roach. If anybody's ever interested, check that out. But he talks about, I think really he's the one that truly defined what emptiness is for me, because like, when they say emptiness, I think they don't mean like, oh, everything is empty.
I like
'cause
the
that's
word.
almost nihilistic. Like that's
Yeah.
where Friedrich, like Nietzsche, really got it wrong.
I would
Because,
really
like-
like the word to be used to be potentiality, because
Yeah.
things until observed, they can become anything. And instead of
Yeah.
being empty, like nothing exists there,
Their
there's definitely
potential.
something there that fruitions into something. But like,
Yeah.
that itself is not said.
Well,
And
see,
that, I
'cause
think that's
I think when the West met the East, you know, because the Eastern has their philosophy, the Westerns have their philosophies. Like when Nietzsche met, like when he encountered that concept, I think he went completely sour and fucked it up for the West for a little bit, because like that dude started saying that it's all nothingness and God is dead, and when you die, it's just that's it, it's blank, darkness and whatever, and there's no hell or heaven, it's just dark, like that's it. You didn't feel anything before you were born, and so you're not gonna feel anything after you're dead, and like the world became really dark. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's just because of like a miscommunication of that word sometimes, because it's like they didn't mean emptiness of like everything. I
the
think
absence
they meant, yeah,
of-
yeah. What did he say? He said the absence of self. Like that emptiness truly implies the absence of self. So like, what that means, and this is it, like it struck me like crazy, like that it's binary code. That like computers, that's how computers work. You can't have a packet of information that exists on its own. Zero means it doesn't mean anything. A one means nothing. You know, it has to be a 0 0, a 0 1, a 1 0, or a 1 1. That's the way it works. It's a packet of information. That's a bit. You know, a bit, and then they megabyte, gigabyte, all that. So 1 bit, the smallest bit of information, the smallest amount of information that can be interpreted by this system that we live in, is a bit. And a bit is literally 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. That's what a bit is. You know, and so they call it binary code. You can't have just zero. You can't have just one. You need them both. You need to cross reference. And that they have this crazy game out in Tibet called Mushi Musum, where the monks or whatever, they get in debates, and they literally they have a game, a linguistic game, where it's like, okay, they bring up a concept, like, you know, they'll bring up two concepts. It has to be always like two concepts, like you know, enlightenment and compassion, you know, and then they'll say, can you have enlightenment and not have compassion? No. You know what I mean? Can you have enlightenment and have compassion? Yes. You know, so like what they're doing is like, you know, 0 1 0 0 0 1, like, can you, can't you, can you,
the
can
logic
you?
gates.
And they
Yeah.
break it down into, literally they break the entire human language down into this binary code system that proves that self does not exist. That they call it the lack of self, non-self, absence
Dependent
of self,
origination. Yeah.
dependent, like emptiness of you know, individuality. It's always interdependent. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you can't separate your actions from everybody else's. Like you didn't, you know, you're always at the mercy of what your parents kind of born you into, you know, or birthed you into. You know what I mean? Like that's the dependent origination from them. There is no self. It's always kind of something that was, you know, cause and effect by something else. And
Yeah.
that's where we really start to break down shit and break down reality and fucking start to see that, like, cause and effect is really, you know, you're always battling, you know, every action that you do creates a consequence, and there's a cause and effect and a cause and effect. And that's where they start to break down like karma, and that if you cause shit, like if you're hateful, if you're fucking mean, or like if you're, you know, you're just putting that out into the universe, and the universe is very reflective, you know, like Big Bang is the mirror breaks. We're all just reflecting off each other, man. We're all just reflective pieces of that God or whatever. And so when you do something to someone like that, like you just the universe gives it back to you. You know, you
Absolutely.
steal from someone steals from you. Inevitably, sometime somewhere down the line, you think that you got away scot free. 10 years later, bam, somebody steals all of your shit. And it's ironic too. Like the universe has that irony where not only does it get you back, but it gets you back in the same exact way that you did it to someone else. You know what I mean? And so then the lesson is, well, if there's this whole cause and effect game and there's consequences, well, then I better watch my fucking actions, and I better start to observe consequences and start to like draw myself towards those better consequences.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the name of the game right there. And I think Western, Eastern, whatever, when you study both sides, eventually you get to that point. You get to the idea that, you know what, everything is binary code, everything is interdependent. And then when you start to see the interdependentness between things, you see the cause and effect ties between them. And that's just the philosophical system that I think the brain has set out. You know, the computers prove that.
Yeah.
Boolean logic, like binary code. That's, you know what I
Well, and
mean?
then language, and henceforth language. I mean, the computer, once all of that was proved, I mean, it kind of killed philosophy after that, you know. Um, there's
Yeah.
really been nothing there because I mean, in logic, you can make crazy statements that make no sense and prove them true, you know, conditionally, and it's all about. I mean,
Yeah, like this.
circuits, electronics, all of that is based off that same matter, and you know, fundamentally, you know, when you break the universe down, again, you break it down into atoms and quarks and all of that. And if you think about it at that fundamental level, anything can become anything. Like it really could. You know,
Potential, yeah, like how you're
if
saying.
you meshed all the correct atoms together at that level, they could become anything. And you know, you read about all these yogis in you know the Middle East, Tibet, the Himalayas and stuff, and you know, kind of actually gives a path for that to be true. You
Yeah.
know, because they say that if you truly understand the nature of reality, you have power over the elements, and you know, people, all religions, they have their prophets and miracles that happen, and you know, I would like to think that maybe, yeah, maybe not all of them are completely true, but there's got to be some pathway. If that is truly how the reality works, then
Yeah.
there is a pathway to
Well,
crazy potentials and possibilities. If it's really potentiality, you know, we can
but there is
learn how to really
see,
harness
but
these energies and
there is
make
I think
miraculous things happen.
where science kind of starts to go out of bounds, in my opinion, is that like I think that it's a potentiality that works within a boundary of rules. It's working within this boundary of a binary system. It's working within the boundaries of Boolean logic, and the
And then
computers
causality as
computers
well.
prove that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Look at the like we're fucking broadcasting this shit live through a computer. That's proof. You want evidence? Right there, yo. Control A. That's a fucking Boolean logic circuit. You know, select all. That means that's an AND circuit in Boolean logic. Like you can break that shit down, but like computers prove that that is a rule that the universe is governed by. The universe of perception is governed by this system of binary code and cause and effect. And,
Absolutely.
and and so science starts to go out there with this whole 10th dimension theory that like
Well,
oh
they still can't even
well
agree
the
on
eighth
10.
well the eighth dimension is basically a universe with a whole new set of rules, so cause and effect doesn't correlate. Like shut the fuck up. Just shut up. You're spitting nonsense then.
Yeah, I
Like you're
mean,
like like you know what I mean. Like
you
I
have
think
to
that the
open yourself.
potential has to exist within this certain boundary of rules, because without it, like it shatters. That's what I mean. Like it's the God's signature. It's God's like it's a perfect equation. Like in the Matrix, where the motherfucker meets like the architect and shit, and he's like, you're the fucking remainder, and like we've had to build this Matrix 6 times because you're fucking ass. You're the one little fucking digit that keeps remaining after this equation. But like the universe is not like that. The universe, I think, is a perfect equation. Like God fucking got it right, and it's just perfect. And like it was just like so perfect. It just got put in place. And as a matter of fact, I think it's so perfect that it like big bang, big crunches, and then repeats itself because, what happens after a perfect show? You want an encore, right? So I think it is kind of like how the Rig Veda said and shit that like,
Yeah,
there's that
waking and
oscillating
yeah.
universe. Everything is an oscillation, and there's big bang, big crunch. Just like how you blink, you close your eyes, you open your eyes. Just like how you go to sleep, you wake up the next day. Just like how it's day and night every time, and that's just like the universe fractalizing itself on bigger levels. That like, it's big bang, big crunch, and it repeats itself. It fucking encores, bro. I'm telling you. I don't know how else to explain it, like, but it's just that when you finally have gone through every possibility and every fucking thing, every potential within this system of rules, then it repeats itself because it's a perfect equation. When you start to take out the rules, that's like we can potentially conceive of that because that's like God messing with the equation before it was
Yeah,
perfected.
well, I mean, you
But
have
now the
to.
equation is perfected, in my opinion. Like,
We're again thinking on very set terms of like reality as we perceive them. We're limited on five senses, and we're able to find all these patterns within these five senses. So, I mean, you can't you know rule that out. That maybe a reality exists where none of these rules are apparent. But I disagree that that signature of God, which, if you would not be there. It would be some other form, or you know what I mean. It's
yeah,
I mean, truth is truth. Like the forms, Plato talked about it. It's nothing physical. It's nothing.
Yeah, the form itself of
like
something.
necessarily perceivable with our senses, but like it's truth itself. And yeah, you cannot refrain from that. Like that I agree with. But yeah, for reality to follow none of the rules that we observe right now, I absolutely, think that's possible. I mean, it rains diamonds on other planets. Like that's not a
I don't
possibility
know
we
though.
think here.
No, see,
And
that's the thing. I think
going
like I
through a
think
black hole, who knows how things go. Like
I
you
think our
can only talk
minds.
about what you observe, obviously.
Well, yeah, but see, like when you say like other planets raining diamonds, well, I mean that's a complete thing that that's just imagined. Like as far as what we've seen in reality,
Okay, yeah. If you
you
want to go
know,
on that note, then
this is what we perceive. There is cause and effect. You know what I mean? There is an interdependent connection between all things. Binary code does exist. And
yeah,
um, I think that that's just the rules that govern the universe. And the more people try to fight that, like it's just kind of stupid. Like the second you start to accept it, like you start to see how shit works, and like you know what I mean. It's almost like you become more comfortable with it all because it's
yeah,
it's it's like it's like I like to say like there's this whole battle between fate and choice, just like in the Matrix. Like you know what I mean. Are we actually fucking like doing everything that God wanted us to do? Is it all God's plan? Is it all pre-planned, predetermined, and we're just following through it, or do we get to choose? And there's an interesting way where you can collapse that function. It's called Grand Theft Auto. And when you play Grand Theft Auto, I mean, essentially, literally the coders of that fucking game are godheads, yo, straight up, because they encoded in that fucking game a little mini universe where you can do anything you want, literally. But there's missions, so that's like you have choice, but there's some kind of a fate line, and you can ignore your fate line, but if you just go towards it, you'll beat the game. And that's kind of what I'm saying is that like when you start to just like yeah, you can try to fight this fate shit or whatever, but like when you just kind of start to go towards it and finish your fucking missions, the things that are calling towards you,
yeah,
you beat the game. You get you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the GTA shit is just so fucking magnificent, man. I'd love to fucking talk to those programmers one day. Like shit. They're coming out with a new one too. It's gonna be massive,
I,
even more massive.
yeah, dude.
Every map just keeps getting bigger on that game, dude. Like trying to make all of the whole U.S. and shit. Like,
They really are, man. Like, I don't know how they're gonna be able to do it, but they top themselves
like
every
these
time.
coders though, like that's godhead shit. Like,
Yeah, no.
god damn, like seriously, you know what I mean? Like,
Sooner or later, bro, they're going to the Caprica reality.
like in on the virtual side, trying to
Yeah,
make that shit. Well, you need a massive kind of PC for that, massive storage. But like they're already doing it with these
that's
games
where
where
it's
it's
heading.
like
Yeah, no, I
the
mean
game
it's
itself. It's like it's almost like fucking reality. Like you go out, you have to feed your character, you have to work out, like you have to like,
well, not only that, the graphics, bro. Like I see,
you know
like
what I mean?
someone mod the latest GTA, with like super crazy graphics, and it's almost
You can play as a
that
Meeseeks.
you go. I'm sure you could.
Yeah, you can.
Uh, you can do like still shots of scenery, and you're like, dang, is that a real place? It's like, it's insane that graphics are at that level. Where we came from a generation where Pong still existed.
Right?
Like it's like, I don't know. It's
No, it's a trip, man. It is, but to see that the coding it exists for that kind of a potential, you know what I mean? And like I go into that. I like to bring up that movie Pi. If anybody's seen that movie Pi, they fucking bring up this game Go. I don't know if you guys ever played Go. Let me bring it out real quick. I got this Go board right here. It's basically just a bunch of fucking just a bunch of squares and shit, and you put like like little pebble stones on them, and they're black and white. And they say that the game's possibilities are endless. That you can keep going on forever. That basically the game will never finish until someone just kind of like forfeits. But in the movie Pi, they debate that. They say that like the Go game could actually finish. That eventually
you would go
you'll
through every
exhaust all
permutation.
possibility. It's just a big
Yeah.
ass. It's just a big ass number, and it's like if that's what it is, see, because there's two possibilities. Either it really is infinite and the number's endless and it just keeps going, or it's limited. It's somehow like it's there's a certain number of possibilities. Eventually, you'll run through all the possibilities, right? And so if that occurs, you know what I mean. then this encore oscillating universe idea starts to make sense. If
Yeah.
not, then it's just forever
This
forward
continual forward
in
line
this chaos, random universe where anything can happen forever and new potentials keep popping up in existence every moment. And
Yeah.
just when you thought every possibility was exhausted, new potentials pop up. And see, so that's the theory science is trying to play off right now. This whole quantum shit. Well, new possibilities and
Parallel
things don't
dimensions.
fall into fucking this and that and whatever. But you know what? As far as I've seen, I don't know. Nobody's really fucking proven this shit to me. But like cause and effect still exist. Binary code still exists, and Boolean logic still exists. You know why? Because all this shit that science is discovering is on computers, bitch. It's fucking on computers, so like you can't refute Boolean logic and you can't refute binary code.
Well, without that, yeah, we don't even have language or anything
You
to
know,
describe
so
anything.
like get the fuck out of here. Like that's the way the universe works. Like Boolean logic, that's the way the mind works. Fucking binary code. You know, and to say that there's things that exist outside of that to me is just so ridiculous. It's like that's stupid, bro. Like you're all the things that you're fucking looking up and all the Higgs boson and blah, blah, you're looking it up on a fucking computer. So yeah,
You're not seeing that
these
directly.
fucking laws still
Yeah.
exist. Like, oh well, there may be a universe where there's new laws and there is no Boolean logic. No, no.
Yeah, you just don't know all
No.
the variables.
It's this fucking universe, and those are the laws that govern it, in my opinion.
Well, and then again, we talked about that too. They're measuring these subatomic particles, and looking at that as the universe, while simultaneously, this whole other universe is happening here. And if you accept gravity and you accept all of that, there's some way that the macro world is affecting the micro. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way to deny that. And they could try to completely refute one or the other. Like, they'll look at just the planets, classical physics, sums a bowling ball down to one particle. Like, that's the only way you can come down to these conclusions. It's limiting your perceptions, but it still points you into the same direction. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like in Buddhism, like the Diamond Cutter Sutra. They're talking about all dharmas are equal, because when you really take everything to its logical extreme, it takes you to that same realization that you're just going to have that dualistic approach on everything.
Yeah.
And
Well, see, that's how you collapse duality.
yeah,
Binary code. You ever heard of the collapsing of duality? It's not two things. It's one in itself joined together.
well, because the two binary
It's two forces
extremes
going into
require each other to define
you
each
can't-
other.
Yeah,
So
exactly. You can't define up without down. You can't define
Yeah.
down without up. It's
they're,
relative.
they're mutually inclusive yet opposites.
So I mean, I think we can all agree that that's how the fucking universe works. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care where you came from, what age you are, or what. Like, most people can agree. Like, hey, if I do something, there's gonna be an effect. You know what I mean? That's kind of binary, cause and effect. There's always some binary tied to what you're doing. It's always two
Yeah,
things.
Newton's-
You know what I mean? It's always opposites and balancing of opposites. But then, you know what I mean? Even kids, even a fucking kid will, you know what I mean? They go and punch another kid. Well, guess what? They get mad and they fucking go steal their lunch, or they'll punch them back or something. Usually they'll punch them back because that's how the universe works. They give
Well,
you
no,
the
there's
same exact thing.
consequences.
It's reflection.
Yeah, no, like even
But-
then, like there's the psychological consequences. Like either they become a bully, they condition their minds then to take on this whole other lifestyle, or there's always effects for every action, and that's undeniable. Like some people try to avoid it, but like it's
And even
It's-
like, you know what I mean? Even this is what threw me off, because there's this video about like how there's 10 dimensions.
yeah.
In my opinion, I think like I get satisfied. I can satisfy myself with like 6 or 7 dimensions, right? Like
I think it was the 7th that we
But like
stopped
when
at.
it goes to 8, dude, it gets stupid, because then they start to say that like, oh, there could be a universe with new conditions for a beginning, and then it's under a new set of rules, right? But then they start to say that like, and in this new universe, it could, instead of the Big Bang occurring under these conditions, the Big Bang occurs under these conditions, and then causes this. So they still accept cause and effect.
Yeah.
Up till the 8th or 9th or 10th fucking dimension, like whatever they're trying to
Well-
say on that stupid fucking video where science is all talking about, because I'll break it down. Look, first dimension's a point, second dimension's a line, third dimension's a box, which you got length, width, and fucking depth. Fourth dimension they say is time. That's Einstein. That you got like a cube, you got a box moving through time.
Movement
That's the
through-
fourth
yeah.
dimension. The fifth dimension is possibilities. potentials. When I talk about the fifth dimension on my album and shit like that, like the fifth dimension can be kind of like postulated that there's an album, there's some kind of a space that exists where different possibilities occur. Where like there's a fork in the road where I could have done this or I could have done that, and there's this choice potential. Instead of a line, you get a split. And that I believe could be a dimension of different possibilities, forks in the road. And then they say that there's a sixth dimension, which is like Back to the Future. He goes back in time and Biff goes back in time and gives his younger self the atlas.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of a concept there. Now that's beyond a split. They call that a fold. It's not a split anymore. It's like you went out and you split, and then you had to fold back into the past to give yourself the atlas and create a completely new split. So it's no longer like this. You split, and then you create three paths, So that's the sixth dimension, they say. You can watch fucking Back to the Future, watch Biff give himself the fucking atlas. That's like sixth dimension shit. Seventh dimension, they say, is like the totality of all that, which is where I believe it goes back into a point. Refractal. It refractalizes back into itself. The seventh dimension is the one dimension, and then it just goes back into itself. But then they start to go, there's other scientists that say there's 12 dimensions, there's 13.
Well, yeah, that's where the argument stops.
Yo, like, come on, bro. Like,
well, have you seen even the newest stuff? Is they're saying that none of those dimensions exist. That those the holographic theory.
Yeah.
That all the dimensions are
I
projections.
I hate that word gets so misused. Like when they say, "Oh, we're from a parallel dimension." That
Yeah,
doesn't. No. You know what dimension means? It's a mathematical term to define something in space. So you have length, you have width, you have depth and volume. And then you have movement, which is like time, movement with length, width, and volume. And then you have movement in different possibilities. You could move here, could move there, could move there. Then that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But then there's also the possibility where you could go back and change a movement, which is the sixth dimension. That all makes sense because dimensions are about space. But then when they start to say shit about like, oh, we're from a parallel dimension, it's like, that's sci-fi
alternate
shit.
timelines. Yeah.
That's sci-fi
yeah,
shit.
I don't.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a misused word. I think they mean parallel, universe within the multiverse is what they really mean. It's just misused.
Well, man, have you seen some of the theories on that? The Mandela effect? Like,
No, what's that?
It's the most common one is the Snow White or the mirror on the wall. Who's it's like a famous phrase that half of the population will remember it as mirror on the wall. And it's a classic movie,
Yeah.
A lot of people would go back and realize it's magic mirror on the wall. And when, like some theorists say that, we went back in time into a parallel dimension where, you had memories of it being mirror on the wall, but then something shifted. It's like proof of time travel, but it's like, well, that's the closest proof anyone has that a parallel dimension exists, because that would it has to mean that both of those potentials happened simultaneously,
Well,
and then you jumped realities. But it's like the stupidest thing. Like, how easy is it for someone to mess that up? Like,
see, here's the thing too, though, that to think that there's a whole new universe where that stuff is existing, like where
I mean,
where there's
I refute
like
that.
a fork in the road, and there's a whole new other universe where that stuff is existing. Where like like the movie, the one with Jet Li, where like he's traveling through different universes, killing all of his other halves so that he can become stronger or whatever.
Or like Rick and Morty,
Or like Rick and Morty, like that, like the multiverse shit,
yeah.
like that shit's fucking cool. I dig it under the
good for
under the GTA,
conceptual,
but under
yeah.
the GTA premise, because like under the GTA premise, like there's coding that allows you to do any possibility, but
Right.
there's still a mission. That's what I'm like. That's the only way I've been able to settle it down. And like, if you want to take it on a deeper level, it's almost like the universe is like this big old story. It's like a big story of just something happened, and then all of a sudden, all these other things happen, and cause and effect, and conflict and resolution, and cause and effect, and conflict and resolution, and cause. That's what stories are. So the universe is like this big story, right? It's like a movie or some shit, right? But it's like, I say it in the song. It's like a documentary with alternate endings.
Yeah.
But
And a bunch of spin-offs.
right, but no, it's like the universe is basically like if you think of it as like a choose your own adventure book. Ever seen a choose your own
Yeah,
adventure
yeah,
book?
like the
Like,
Goosebumps, where you would turn to page 53
yeah,
if you go to the right door, and
exactly. So
um,
it's like the book's already written.
right.
You buy the book written, and all the possibilities are in there, but you get to still choose.
Well, I mean, if
Do
you
you see what
think
I'm
about
saying?
that, if you accept causality,
I mean, and then you got to redo the book and go like check out all the different
yeah,
possibilities. But you see what I'm saying?
exactly.
It collapses
There's certain
fate and choice.
permutations. There's
Like there's the fate of the book. The storyline is written. There's a
yeah.
plot, but then there's the choice of the reader where he can pick what pages and what ending they want. It's like an
Well,
alternate ending
yeah, no, like
thing.
I dig the, you know, what was it? A motion picture, right?
Yeah, yeah. Motion
That's
picture. That song.
that song, that whole concept. Because, I mean, yeah, if you accept causality, that's saying that this action causes this, you know, product or whatever.
Yeah.
If you know the certain causes and products, then yeah, everything's predictable. Like if
But
you
they're
really
the
analyze it on that level, of course it's like 50 million things happening at once, and
yeah.
you sum it as one, but didn't count all the other variables. But like if you really did have the mind to pick out every different cause and their effects, I mean, yeah, everything would be you would be omniscient. You really would be.
Well, I mean that's like being the author of the book.
Yeah,
You know, you
exactly.
know all the possibilities. You know which page for which ending. You know which sequence of pages for which ending.
Exactly.
You know, and it's like the universe is like that. It's like a choose your own adventure book where it's like it's already written. I feel, but there's timelines in there that are different. But at the end of the day, it still repeats itself. I don't know. It's like the soul is like. Well, let's put it in more perspective. Like, it's like not only is the book already written, but there's a plot line, everything, conflict resolution, but there's a certain number of characters,
Yeah.
right? And so like there's 50 characters in the book or whatever, right? And you kind of see perspectives of each character. Maybe there's a protagonist, antagonist, whatever, but like that's how life is. There's a book, there's a storyline, conflict resolution, and then we're characters in life. And I also bring that up in a Terrence McKenna quote on a motion picture
Yeah.
that like we're all characters or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like almost like the soul is like the reader, you know what I mean? And like you when you when you die, you just switch characters. So like me as a character right now, RX, whatever, I die. And then the soul just jumps into the next character and sees that perspective. And it goes through all the characters. And once it's done going through all the characters and all possibilities and every timeline, it repeats itself. Because it's just a game.
Yeah.
Like it's like God's amusement park or some shit. And it rides the bodies as the rides or whatever. But like but I saw this. I was tripping hardcore one time on this crazy fucking trip, and like I saw this episode of The Simpsons that really like it stamped my brain forever. This episode where it showed it was all one day basically, but it started off with Lisa's day, and then it shows you her whole all the sequence of events that occurred through her day, and then it went to commercial. Here I'm all tripping fucking balls.
Thank God for the commercial.
And then, and then the next segment, it shows Bart's day, same day, but his sequence of events that occurred and whatever.
Yeah.
And then commercial, and then it goes Marge's day, and then it goes Homer's day.
I remember that one.
And so it's like, dude, it's like I was like on a micro scale, like how we keep saying, like I'm sitting here tripping, I see Lisa's day. And then the commercial comes, and like the commercial's like I die. You know what I mean? Like I am Lisa. I'm watching Lisa Simpson on the show, and I become her. Like, and then commercial is like death. And then I came back, and I'm Bart.
The Bardo,
now.
yeah.
But it's the same day. It's the same universe. It's the same timeline. It's the same day. Just micro instead of macro. And so like now I'm Bart. And then commercial, and then boom, now I'm Marge. You know what I'm saying? And okay, so that's what Marge went through in her day, and then commercial, and then now I'm Homer. But then the beautiful thing about that episode is that like at the very end they tie it all together and they show you how all four characters contributed to one thing happening.
Right.
Like this dude, Bart went to go steal some firecrackers and like accidentally fired some off at the school, which got Lisa in trouble. Which then Marge had to come and pick her up. Which then like they got in a car accident or some shit, and then like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it shows one day, and it's like micro. macro. It shows one day, 4 characters, how that could potentially happen. How the soul in between each commercial goes through a different body, but it's the same timeline.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to
that's
like.
crazy.
I know it sounds fucking crazy,
No,
bro,
no,
but
it
it's
is.
just like,
I mean, because like we said, man, ultimate reality is unfathomable. It really is. Like the closest thing that we can do is come up with a tool that like short circuits our feeble brain and it makes us realize this crazier thing than us.
but then this
You
is
know
the
what I
interesting.
mean?
This is
But
the interesting implication of that theory. It really proves that it's only one. Well, I mean, it doesn't prove. I guess it
but
postulates
it
that there's only one soul, and that one soul is traveling through bodies. So this is the end all be all of that premise. If I die, and when I die, I got to become you. Then why the fuck would I ever want to hurt you if I am you?
yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Logically. So I die, and then, Art dies, and he becomes fucking, RX dies, he becomes, Mr. ES. Why the fuck would I ever want to hurt you if I know I have to be you?
Right.
And so fuck if I'm right or wrong, honestly. On a philosophical debate level, fuck if I'm right or wrong. The premise that I am postulating ends up with the result that people will have to be nicer to each other. You know why? Because then if it's true that, oh, well, you know what, it's all one soul and I'm just traveling through this body. It's just, okay, today I'm going through Bart's day. Next day I'm going through Lisa's day. Next day I'm going through next body I'm going through Homer's day. Homer's life. Next death I'm going through fucking, Barney. Next death I'm going through
Yeah.
every character, whatever, and then it goes through every character until it's done. It's like that book that's already written. There's a certain number of characters. It's just a big ass number, and then once it goes through all that numbers, it repeats itself because it's a beautiful encore. It's fucking beautiful. It's so fucking awesome. It's like it wants to do it again over and over and over forever. That's God.
Yeah.
Like
It's just yeah, it's
so.
insane.
Like,
Yeah, we've had that talk before, and I think you have one of two reactions to that. You
Yeah.
either get like some kind of satisfaction with your current state, or you're just extremely terrified at the whole concept.
Yeah, that it's like, oh my
there's
god, I'm trapped in a cage.
Yeah,
I'm stuck. I'm a soul stuck in this book, going through all these bodies.
and
Yeah.
as long as we've gone through other crazy experiences, inebriations and stuff like that, your mind goes to those places, and
Yeah, it does for
Um,
sure. But like I said, regardless of whether or not I'm wrong, the premise leads to a peaceful resolution.
well, I
You know
think
what I
the
mean?
problem in that is
So-
having people believe that, like,
Well, it goes beyond. Honestly,
it's-
belief is a fucked up word.
yeah, well,
Because
to have faith in it,
and I'll
you
say
know, to
I've
have-
said it on other episodes, man. If you don't understand it, why you believe in it? If you understand it, there's no need to believe it. You understand it, so you either understand it or you don't. There's no need for belief.
well, at the same time, don't underestimate the power of not knowing.
Because they're talking about faith. You're talking about is faith, but see, I'm talking about beyond faith. I'm talking about like logical systems, like how we're saying that like nobody can disprove the fact that you need binary code to make a computer run.
Yeah,
That is one. You don't need faith for that. It's understood. You don't need to believe that binary code's gonna work on your computer. You know it is. It's understood.
If it turns
Belief
on,
is fucking
yeah.
retarded. Belief is the stupidest fucking thing that could have ever happened to the mind. It's like faith, believing something that could potentially.
Well, yeah, you either know
Go
or don't know.
Go examine
Yeah.
it and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like, it's kind of funny because death or something like that we can never know what happens after death, and every religion is based on what
Some
they
sort of
think
knowing.
is going to happen after death. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just kind of proposing a different theory than every other religion has ever proposed. It. What if it is just the same? It's just we're all just characters in this big fucking book, and the soul just goes through and I am you, and you are me, and the soul just goes through all the bodies, and God made this body and that body and this, and you just go through all of them until the whole story's fucking been revealed, and then you do it again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But see, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm not saying I fucking understand it. What I am saying is that if it is true, then I am you. You know what I mean? When I die, I go back and I become you. And as a matter of fact, there's a really cool poem. I'm going to pull it up so y'all can read it. And it really goes in depth more than I could about this concept. And shout out to fucking Cecil from, used to be Born Sinners and shit. He's out in Phoenix and shit now. Shout out to Cecil for telling me about this fucking poem, bro. Like this shit, like I was going through crazy shit trying to figure this out, and this dude showed me this poem, and I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. So like, I'm not gonna read. I mean, should I read it? No, I'm not gonna read it. Like, you guys can read it. Go check it out. Andy Weir, The Egg. But basically, it's about this guy that dies, and he meets God, and God tells him, "Hey, man, good job." The guy's all tripping out, like, "Oh no, what about my family?" This and that. And God tells him, "Hey, look, don't worry, you're dead now. You did a good job in your past life, whatever. You did what you needed to do. I need you to fucking do some other shit now, though." And so the guy's tripping out. "Well, what about my family?" And I'm like, no, don't worry. They're gonna be taken care of. Like, I'm going to send you off into another path. And so the story progresses or whatever, but it brings up an interesting point that I want to get into. Basically, in typical understandings of reincarnation, it's progressive, it's linear.
Yeah.
It's like 40, they always say that, like, when a monk gets reborn, if you look up like the Tibetan Book of the Dead or whatever, that when a monk gets reborn, it's 49 days to the next stage, to the next life, or but it's progressive. It's
To lead, like, time is linear
1918 to
succession.
1919,
Yeah.
and then from 1919 the guy dies in 1980, and then it goes so on and so forth. Well, one of the things that interested me about this poem is that it brings up the idea of reincarnating into the past.
Right.
Like, so as the story progresses, the guy dies, he meets God, he starts flipping out, God calms him down, and he tells him, "Hey, I need you to be this guy that ends up becoming a president and freeing a bunch of fucking oppressed people." And the guy's like, "Wait, well, I've heard this story before. You mean Abraham Lincoln?" And God says, "Yeah, exactly. I need you to be Abraham Lincoln." And so, like, what the poem is implying is that reincarnation could potentially go backwards.
Right.
That it
It's
could
not-
go
it's not
back in
stuck in
time.
time.
And so it's not
Uh-huh.
stuck in a linear time. And so that kind of is interesting because, like, if you put up this whole choose your own adventure theory where we're all characters in that choose your own adventure book, then basically, like, you can go into any character at any point in time within that timeline. You're just going back
Right.
into that timeline. It's like that timeline is like a pool. It's like a swimming pool of water. All the time that exists in that pool, and you just jump back into the pool at any point. It doesn't necessarily have to be linear.
Yeah.
And that was
yeah.
super interesting to me because I've always understood that reincarnation is linear.
Right.
But when you start to say, "Wait a minute, I could go back in time and then be reincarnated as this person to see how that happened," and then
it's crazy, man.
So I highly recommend y'all check out this poem. It's pretty crazy. It definitely goes more into depth about kind of how what we were saying, but it's very well written. Andy Weir actually made that movie, The Martian,
Yeah, he's the author of The Martian. I was gonna say that.
with Matt Damon or whatever. So Andy Weir is a pretty dope dude.
Yeah, the book's way better than the movie, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That movie sucks. I mean, it's decent, but like, come on, making potatoes out of shit. Literally.
The coolest thing I'll give it to him is when he extracts the water from the fuel.
There
Like,
was some
that would
decent
really
shit.
happen.
There was some decent shit.
That would work.
But it just, like, I was like, man, this guy's making potatoes out of shit. What am I watching?
On Mars, not only is he making potatoes out of shit, but it's on Mars.
He's making potatoes out of human shit,
frozen
too. Like, it's not
fucking-
even manure. It's like human. He's like, he's shit, and then he's making potatoes with his own shit.
Think about it though. He was eating space food, so like that couldn't be the best shit either.
But yeah, Andy Weir. So Andy Weir, The Egg. Check out that poem. He's the guy that made The Martian, and like, that'll kind of reinforce a lot of the shit that we were talking about in this episode, as far as like philosophical theories about death, and you know what I mean, and what happens in the universe and how it all ties together. But I mean, I'm honestly, man, thank you for fucking coming out and like,
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure.
allowing this conversation to come out. I know it was kind of like, it wasn't your typical RX show, but I definitely like, I know probably we're not gonna get as much views on this one, but I definitely wanted to
That's
get this
fine.
theory out there because that's my big theory as far as the Big Bang is the mirror breaks and that whole album. As far as the Refraktal, it takes both sides. You know what I mean? Because the refractal thing is instrumental, and there's some things that are so deep that you can't speak them in words. You have to just kind of feel them, and I think
For
that's
sure.
what refractal represents at the end of the day, is like those feelings. There's no words to the music really. There's very little. I mean, we sample a few things like Allison Gray.
Concepts, even them, they're the concepts.
Yeah.
There's a deeper meaning that you're supposed to
But that's the meaning.
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
got to the very gist of it right now on this episode. To be honest, man, like if anybody goes back and watches the shit from beginning to end and actually goes and checks out this poem, I think they're gonna get what we're trying to say, man. Like, cause this whole thing with religion and how Christianity and heaven and hell and Buddhism and this linear reincarnation and it's just their premises lead to fucked up resolutions on a like the premise of a heaven and this and that and only certain people get accepted and hell and you get fucking punished and like what, you're automatically excluding people. You're
Yeah, well,
throwing like I think this theory promotes equality on a level that's never been seen before because you have like if you really take this into heart, you are the other person. Your soul just hop bodies real quick. It's just one soul going through the amusement park of bodies.
there you go.
You know what I mean? All of them ants and animals too. You know what I'm saying? And I try to draw theories based on what I see in the world, and that like all I see is this, and at the end of the day, like the resolution, whether the premise is correct or not, the resolution is more peaceful than all these other religions' resolutions. Unfortunately, all these other religions' resolutions tend to be kind of more, you know what I mean? Like heaven is exclusive. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
well, I mean,
Like they don't take into aspect the totality of every character and why every character had to go through that.
I think ultimately, I mean, that what we understand all these other teachings to be is interpretations of what we've been fed. I think
Yeah.
ultimately everyone was trying to give light to the same realization. Like, people, even if people don't even listen to this theory or whatever to the full length, but they go through the permutations in their mind and go there and think about this. They're gonna come to their own realizations, but come to the same place. Like it's probably not exactly
What
how it was
happens?
talked, like how it was spoken here. But like when you have that understanding, it's yeah, you just got to take the path. You got to walk it, and go through those logical debates in your own head, and
Yeah.
and the outcome of that. Like, I mean, truth lies in there. Like you know, no words are going to convey it 100%.
Yeah. I think we got pretty close today, though.
Yeah, no, it's definitely
Honestly,
a big
for
tool.
anybody that really sits and tries to listen and understand what we were saying just now, like, and I'm not bashing on any other religion or anything, but honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
if you really think about it, like, religion is philosophy without answers. It's philosophy based on faith, and philosophy is fucking truth with answers when you really break it down. And I had to study philosophy for fucking 4 or 5 years, man. Like, and I had to break down what Boolean logic is in my own head. I had to find out what binary code means, and like I said, I pull proof from what I see, and I see these computers working. And go study and go take any computer science class right now. The first thing they're gonna fucking teach you is Boolean logic. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So like to start to base our society more based on what we can confirm. This is confirmable. This isn't atoms. How many of us have seen atoms? Have you ever seen an atom? I didn't even fucking know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the smallest thing I've seen is like a cell. I've seen a cell in like science class and shit. But like,
Well,
how many
microscope.
people really get to see this shit? Like, let's start focusing more on what's going on right here and right now. And I think at the end of the day, I just want to have fun with my people, and every day I have to encounter more and more people, and I think the more peaceful we can be with each other, the better the world is gonna be, and that's what this theory promotes, whether it's right or wrong.
Definitely. No, that's the
So,
ultimate goal, right? More peace, less suffering.
and it's refractal toroid just shifting and changing shapes, and every moment in time comes up, and every other moment in time. But we're gonna wrap it up right there, man. We're hitting the 1 hour and 20 minute mark. Want to thank Mr. ES for coming out, doing
Pleasure,
the
brother.
RX episode with me here. Check out Andy Weir, The Egg. Read the poem if you ain't checked it out. Serious, some deep shit. I don't know, you can't unlearn this, so definitely disclaimer there. But yeah, some deep ass shit, man. Check that shit out. Shout out to Cecil from Born Sinners. Happy birthday to Table Manners again. Thank y'all once again. We love y'all. And
Peace.
doses.